Hi guys, just thought I'd do a little update video, if you was in on why you haven't seen me or any renovation progress for a while. Obviously this is why. Really my story began about 10 years ago. I started having a lot of back pain issues, numbness in my arms, waking up with dead arms in the morning, to the point where it got pretty bad. Finally went to the doctor and said, you know, this isn't normal, and he sent me for a scan. He sent me off to a specialist in Launceston in Tasmania, and I would have only been less than about 31 years old at the time. Anyway, this guy basically laughed at me, said it's all in my head, there's nothing wrong with me. Scan's one of the best scans he's ever looked at. I'm wasting his time. Sent me out the door. What do? Righto. Certainly wasn't imagining the symptoms, but you've got a spinal specialist there telling you it's all in your head. You just try and get on with your life and question yourself, well, is it all in your head? I pushed on with life, working, severe back pain for a couple of more years. Ended up in New Zealand working for 12 months. By the time I'd sort of had enough of being in New Zealand, it was getting pretty bad, and I came back to Australia and travelled for a while, and ended up in Queensland, and did some travelling up around there. By the time I got back to Tasmania, after travelling around Queensland, up to Cape York and all back down the east coast, it was getting pretty severe again, waking up with dead arms and just dealing with constant back pain. And went back to GP and said, look, I've got to do something about this. This isn't in my head, you know. And at the same time, started having a lot of severe pain issues in my hands and feet, and lower back, joint pain. So he sent me to a rheumatologist specialist, and I was diagnosed with a rare form of arthritis called psoriatic arthritis. And while I was there, he did some nerve conduction studies, nerve reaction tests as part of his diagnosis, very thorough. And he sort of got to my right side, and was doing where they smack in the kneecap and stuff and see whether your foot reacts or anything like that. And pretty much my whole right side, I had no nerve reaction. He sort of did it about half a dozen times, stood back and scratched his head. And he said, you're not in good shape. So to have a look at this scan that you had done a couple of years ago. He said, I'm surprised you're still walking. And before I knew it, I've been rushed into emergency surgery. And a matter of weeks later, got an artificial disc installed in my neck. I'll insert a picture of what that looks like here somewhere. And after having that artificial disc installed, it was an absolute nightmare. Recovery was hell. Took nearly 18 months before I could ever lift my arms above my head, bear any or carry any weight, any form of weight. Recovery was very, very slow and painful. And I've since found out that the implant itself has basically failed, you know, in an open position and jammed there. And the spine has essentially fused itself. But of course, because it was designed to move and go through periods where it was trying to fuse the bone itself, it would break. And then you get quite a lot of grinding horrible sensations going on, a lot of pain associated with that. So there's not much you could do but sort of sit on your butt and wait for it to heal. They didn't want to do anything about it surgically at the time because it was classed as stable. When I had that done, because it was sort of an emergency measure to fix the blown out disc and cervical stenosis, which is narrowing of the spinal canal, pressure on the spinal cord. So the spinal cord was basically squashed completely, and at the time I was also having cardiac issues, heart condition called bradycardia, where heart rate would drop down really low. I was in hospital in Queensland for something unrelated. That's where that was picked up and diagnosed, because my resting heart rate was dropping down to 32, 34 beats a minute. And there was I couldn't find any cardiac reason why that was happening. But they even went as far as put an implant cardiac electrical monitor in my chest to monitor what my heart rate was doing. But that got taken out after I had the first cervical surgery. Within a matter of probably 6 weeks, all those symptoms subsided, and the cardiologist basically said because the disc that was in my neck was so collapsed, it completely blocked off the cerebral spinal fluid flow, and the pressure had built up in my head so much that the body's natural reaction was to drop the heart rate to try and reduce the spinal fluid pressure in your brain. Of course, there's a lot of other neurologic symptoms that come along with that, really bad migraines and the other associated pain come with it. Not a fun time. But anyway, that was about 7 years ago now. I had that operation, and when I had that done, he basically said that there's 2 other levels in my cervical spine that aren't flush. I've also got some in my lower back that aren't real great. It's probably part and parcel of living a pretty hard lifestyle as a younger kid, cartwheeling off motorbikes, a couple of car accidents when I was a teenager, and also working as a mechanic all my life, lifting heavy stuff, working in stupid positions, and just generally abusing my body for the job. But the stenosis itself, the narrowing of the spinal column, is a genetic issue. But with the disc blowing out, it sort of exacerbates the pressure on the spinal cord. But anyway, 7 years ago, he said that it's 2 other levels aren't real flash, and normally he would do a 3-level fusion. Given my age at the time, he didn't want to do that and went for discussed it and went for the artificial disc road, which was probably not, looking back, the ideal situation. This time around, the level below, so C5-6, blew out, and I think it's partly related because the level above the artificial disc seized, put extra pressure on the disc below, and it's just let go. I actually hadn't been doing anything really physically demanding or anything leading up to it. I just got up one morning and sort of for a couple of days leading up to it, I had pretty bad pins and needles, and sort of lying in bed feeling like you're being electrocuted, and sort of thought, oh, this isn't good, but it's something that I'd experienced before and had looked at, and they sort of said, no, it's okay, it's not bad enough to do anything about at this stage. But after going and getting an updated scan, it was pretty bad, and the neurosurgeon rang me and said, come and see me on Saturday afternoon on his day off. So I knew when he said that it probably wasn't going to be real good news. And he basically wanted to do it there and then. I sort of needed a few weeks to get life organised and get things sorted out before I come down to Hobart and had a fusion done. So the surgery was yesterday. Cut through here, put everything aside in the front, I'm going from the front, and basically bolt a plate and take the disc out, bolt a plate across the two vertebrae. It's sort of got like an artificial bone graft in the middle to take the place of the disc that they took out. But recovery so far it's been pretty good, hell of a lot easier than what it was after the artificial disc was. But it's going to be slow recovery. I'm not allowed to drive or anything for 3 weeks. I'm wearing a neck brace. I'm not allowed to lift anything for 6 weeks. There's a lot of physiotherapy, and I'm not really allowed to do anything heavy physical for at least 12 weeks or until I get physio clearance. So it'll be a little while yet before I get back into house renovations or tinkering with cars again, but I will get back on my feet, and I just have to be careful and mindful, and I don't want to end up back here in another couple of years or another couple of months having another level done. So that's my story anyway, guys. Just updates, tell you what's been happening and where I've been, and thanks for watching, and I'll endeavour to get some more house renovation videos out when I'm capable. Cheers guys, thanks for watching, bye.